Brayden Weir, and I had the distinct privilege of walking alongside Shayla through her capstone. I should say the first half of her capstone. She got the short end of the stick, and I kind of left her for a little bit. But one of my most favorite conversations this year, when I think back and reflect on the school year, was the first conversation Shayla and I had, just about failure and what it means to live freely and different things like that. Man, Shayla is a person who, she smiles big, she has a big heart, and she just walks through life with a lot of grit and perseverance, and I firmly believe that what she has to share with you guys today is going to reflect a lot about that and about her character. So if you guys would join me in welcoming Shayla.
If I told you that failure is actually the thing that pushes us forward, many of you may not believe me. And understandably so. Society so often tells us that failure is the end of our road. It tells us that failure makes us not good enough. For me though, every door that's been closed, every step that I've taken in the wrong direction, and every time that I thought I was incapable of accomplishing my dreams, that was not my end. That was only my beginning. My dreams were never built on how easy they were to accomplish. My dreams were built on the moments of imperfection, on the moments of growth, and on the moments that made me question my capabilities. Some people say, take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Our path to success is never a straight line. Our paths are unclear. There's lots of scribbles and ups and downs. We are imperfect. We are human. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. This is something we just simply can't avoid. What we can control, though, is how we react to those moments of failure. My biggest goal in life has always been to be an aerospace engineer. It's been the driving factor in everything that I've done. Naturally, there are many obstacles and things that I had to overcome, but those didn't stop me. I used to avoid failure. I ultimately thought failure was going to be my final no, but I realized that my dreams were too important to me to just give up on. Now, I can proudly say I'm going to college to become what I've always dreamt to be. What if failure was not the end of something, but the beginning of something much greater? When we're too often told that failure is supposed to be shameful, what if we've been misunderstanding this entire time? Failure and success always go together. You can't have one without the other. God created us to create. He gave us this beautiful ability to be able to dream and to pursue and to go beyond the limits. This is never done perfectly, but this is always done in His image. Through our weakness, God's goodness is made perfect. Your failures do not define you. Your imperfections do not define you. Your identity is in God. Each one of us in this room has been called to something unique, and He has equipped all of us to fulfill those callings. Hebrews 13:21 says, "May the God of peace equip you with everything good for doing His will, and may He work in us what is pleasing to Him through Jesus Christ." To understand failure well starts with forgiveness for yourself, a realization that failure and weakness are not the same thing, and to learn to let go of the past in order to move towards the future. The first step in understanding failure well is to have the ability to forgive ourselves. Forgiveness for ourselves is often overlooked in the path to success because that voice inside of us always tells us that something is wrong. It's our biggest critic. If that voice inside us gets loud enough, if that voice inside us gets enough power over us, it can start to tell us that we are incapable of accomplishing the dreams that we have. To understand forgiveness is to understand that we are not God. We are not perfect. Holding ourselves to a standard of perfectionism is exhausting and unrealistic. Our stories were never meant to be perfect. All the pieces of the puzzle are not going to be together all the time. As freshmen at Front Range, we practice the Beatitude Project, where we choose one beatitude that we want to highlight in our daily lives. I decided that I wanted to practice mercy. And I decided to practice this because I thought it was going to be really easy. And I found myself to be a particularly forgiving person towards other people. I was easygoing, and I thought it was really easy to forgive others. But I failed to show myself half the mercy that I showed other people. I was always angry at myself for the littlest things, whether that be stuttering over my words or forgetting a task that I had to do. I was always angry at myself. I held myself to an expectation that not even I could meet. These unreasonable expectations led me to want to avoid any situation where failure was even a possibility at all. You can imagine how many situations I wanted to avoid because of this. Earlier this year, during volleyball season, I suffered a concussion. I was told that I couldn't do any sports or do any schoolwork. And my entire world came to a stop at that moment. Who I thought I was had gotten entirely taken away from me. I knew I couldn't comply to these boundaries, but the real reason that I couldn't was because of my mindset. My mindset was one that said I always had to be productive and that I always had to go. Falling behind was a scary thought for me. My entire identity was built on my academic and my athletic achievement. Through this, I learned how to revive my identity in God. I learned how to let myself be still and to heal. And I always fell short, but I always learned to forgive myself. To embrace failure is to forgive yourself for your mistakes. To be human is to embrace the fact that we are imperfect, and not just understanding that we are imperfect, but welcoming this fact incredibly openly into our lives. We need to stop expecting perfection out of ourselves when our God is so merciful and gracious. It becomes so hard to believe that you are capable of your dreams if you keep telling yourself that failure is the end. You would loop into self-criticism and regret. Practicing mercy has not only changed how I treat other people, it's drastically changed how I treat myself. Allow yourself to be fully human. Allow yourself to mess up. Allow yourself these things while still understanding that God is gracious and His grace extends to each and every one of us. I'm going to list some things off for you. Be mindful of the first thing you think of when I say these things. Asking for help, saying no, standing up for yourself, saying I love you without knowing if that love will be reciprocated, or trying something new. Did any of these things make you think this is weakness, or the person doing these things is a fragile person? I'm going to assume that that was not your first thought. In fact, you might have thought that the person doing these things was an admirable person. That's because all of these things are derived from the sentence stem, vulnerability is blank. Somehow, some way, our society has created an image that weakness and vulnerability are equal to each other. But this could not be further from the truth. Society says this as if being vulnerable and embracing your failures is something to be ashamed of. Vulnerability is to be open to attack, as if you just took off the armor that protects you. Vulnerability, in its realest form, is our greatest measure of strength and our greatest measure of courage. Brené Brown is an author, a professor, a researcher, and a podcaster who has dedicated her life to mentoring and authoring books about courage, empathy, shame, and vulnerability. Brown would define vulnerability as not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up when you can't control the outcome. When we start to think about courage and vulnerability in this way, everything can begin to change for us. This year, I decided that I wanted to join the soccer team. And the last time that I touched a soccer ball was when I was 3 years old. I pride myself on my athletic achievements, and I didn't know if I was going to be any good at this sport or if I was going to bring anything to the team. Joining a sport in which I had no prior experience or skill in was really daunting. It was extremely humbling and uncertain. But through this, I found a community and a sport that I love. We're courageous when we decide to show up without knowing the outcome. When we realize that vulnerability is a measure of braveness and not weakness, this can change our entire mindset. We can stop putting on a fake face. We can stop pretending perfectionism is a reasonable goal. We can create a community focused on connection, and not only connection with others, but connection with ourselves. Vulnerability is the start of everything. Trust, love, community, connection, healing, all of these things start with vulnerability. To choose vulnerability does not mean you are choosing weakness. It shows that you're strong enough to choose to be true to yourself. In a world where being fake is what is normalized, it takes bravery to choose to be you. To live wholeheartedly is to learn to let go. Letting go on paper sounds incredibly easy, but in reality, to let go is to release the outcome. release the expectation, release the control. Most of all, to let go is to release the pressure that we put on ourselves. Wholehearted living is defined as embracing vulnerability or vulnerable situations without knowing the outcome. We need to learn to let go of perfectionism and shame. In a culture where perfectionism and independence are not only valued but idolized, we are taught to flaunt our half-perfect status, and we are taught to always be chasing after the next best thing. Perfectionism may look like what is pushing you forward, but it's actually what's holding you hostage. Perfectionism is something that is simply impossible for us. We are humans. Here's what's good about this, though. We are still worthy despite our imperfections. When we embrace imperfection, we embrace what truly makes us human. We fail, and we fall short. But with this, we get back up, we learn, and we grow. Learn to let go of your shame. Shame and guilt are fundamentally different. Guilt is feeling about what you did, while shame is feeling bad about who you are. Shame has the ability to play a major role in our lives if we let it. But shame is not as powerful when we speak it aloud. It loses its grip on us. Shame is fought best through genuine and good community. God designed us to be in community. He made us to be with each other. When we find a community that loves you for you, you start to learn to love your character. To let go of shame, though, is not to pretend it doesn't exist. We need to acknowledge the existence of shame in our lives. We need to not let shame have the power. We need to let truth have the power. The truth should always speak louder than the shame. To live wholeheartedly is to stop striving for perfection, but to start striving for authenticity. Let go of worldly expectations. Live to be the person who God created you to be. Failure is not the end of our journey, but the development of something much greater. When we realize this, everything changes for us. We need to embrace our failures. Failure is not a wall that stops us. Failure is a doorway that we should happily run through. When we embrace failure well, it becomes a tool that we can use. It becomes a tool that we can use to learn, a tool that we can use to grow, and a tool to remind us of our identities. We need to stop running from our failures. Our failures make us the type of people who are resilient, but not because we're perfect. We become resilient because we've persevered. Failure makes us the type of people who are courageous, and not because we've never been afraid. We're courageous because we know how to act in the face of fear. We become the type of people who can live freer, love deeper, and dream bigger. When the path is unclear, we can learn to live this life to the fullest, knowing that our ultimate goal is growth, not perfection. To let go of failure lets us live the life that we are so intricately and beautifully created to live. Failure is a reminder that even in the midst of this messiness that is our lives, each one of us in this room has a unique purpose that we were made to fulfill. Trust God's plan through every step, every obstacle, and every step back. Each of our failures makes us beautifully broken. Our failures are a testimony as to what we've gone through and what we're learning and how we're growing. Live wholeheartedly, not scared, not half-heartedly, not overprotected. Live wholeheartedly. Our flaws are not weakness, but they're a sign that we're alive. Our imperfections show us that we're persevering and we're becoming who God created us to be. Our journeys are not going to be easy. In fact, God promised hardship and trial in our journeys. But God also promised us that we would never have to be alone in this journey. When fear begins to take over your mind, when it tells you that you're not good enough, not strong enough, not enough, have 20 seconds of insane courage. 20 seconds of bravery. That's all it takes. Say yes. Take the first step. Try again. Choose vulnerability over fear. 20 seconds. 20 seconds is all it takes. Your story does not end with failure. Failure is where your real journey begins. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Shayla. We have probably 3 or 4 minutes. If anybody has any questions they would like to ask or anything they want Shayla to maybe explore deeper, now would be a great time to do so.
One more time. Love the topic. I was just Googling while you were still talking. I was thinking about Thomas Edison, how many times he failed before he did the light bulb, and it was 10,000 times.
Yes.
And he said, I haven't failed, I just have 10,000 ways that just haven't worked yet. and I was just thinking, you're going to be going into engineering. There's engineering, there's people that are inventing. Do you have specific mentors or influences in your life that have kind of helped you along this journey?
I had my grandpa. He was the one that was I was like, whoa, cool, rocket, whoa, engineering, cool. That's a big play. Yeah.
I just want to say you're one of the most talented teenagers I have ever met, but your story just shows the power that happens when you surrender your talent to pick up his anointing. I'm so stoked.
Yeah, so I'm biased, obviously, but you did a wonderful job, Shayla, and I'm so proud of you. I just want to know, how has God showed up for you in times of your failures?
I just think I think I see God most after I'm through my times of failure, because I got concussed, but then also I was so mad at God, but then I ended up playing in our regional games, and I just needed to trust Him with that. I was like, why would you do this to me? But I ended up just taking a break and coming back and being even stronger than before. And I think I see God most after I'm through my failures, because I see just how His plan has unfolded through my life.
Thank you.
Probably time for one more. Well, I have a question. What would you say, through your experience here, what do you think the most powerful moment of failure was, and how did you learn from it?
I think my AP Calculus AB class last year, that was a really hard class, and that class made me kind of that class really made me think, am I really built for this? But I think Mrs. Matthews, shout out her, she really helped me through every step of that class, and she told me, she kept reminding me of my identity in God, and my mindset is one that should say I can do this, and I can do hard things. So.
Well, thank you guys for coming one more time for Shayla.